When crimes of bigotry and hate occur in South Carolina, they're prosecuted as regular crimes, not hate crimes.
The city of Charleston recently passed a hate crime ordinance that goes after people who commit them, but so far the state of South Carolina has not.
South Carolina's seen its share of hate, and tonight we asked the question, what are our leaders going to do about it? We've just been told that the Charleston Police Department is going to have a press conference right here in about 5 minutes. So when that evil's visit to the holy city, unprecedented. Entering a sanctuary of safety, he preyed on faith. Armed with animosity and the courage of cowards, he stole away into the darkness and left love bleeding at the altar.
It never even occurred to me that would be possible, that a person would come into a church.
Mayor Riley was among the first to identify what happened at Mother Emanuel as a hate crime.
It was a hate crime, and it was very important at that moment that we made that clear.
In South Carolina, after Dylan Roof, I am shocked that they're not passing a hate crime law.
Cynthia Deitel is a former FBI agent, and she's right. South Carolina is one of 5 states with no hate crime laws on the books. Not then and not now.
So that was the big argument in South Carolina, was he was prosecuted. The state prosecuted him. So what more do you want us to do? We prosecuted him for several counts of murder. We got it.
State Representative Wendell Gilliard is preparing House Bill 3063. He's confident that his bill addresses issues that the federal hate crime law overlooks.
You got to remember, we here in the state, we can't enforce federal laws, okay? And when you look at the history of hate crimes that our federal department is now trying to bring to court, it's a slow process because number one, they don't have the manpower. And that's why you see the other states took it upon themselves and they created their own hate crime bill.
Gilliard says federal law is broad, but his bill is more inclusive, highlighting crimes against sexual orientation and homelessness. Still, there are those who don't believe crime should be separated based on motivation.
Again, I haven't seen any justification as to why someone who attacks a gay man should be punished worse for someone who attacks a straight man he just didn't get along with, or someone who happens to be a racist attacking a black man, you know, getting a worse punishment than someone who just attacks a white man who's an asshole.
I think the answer is so that we can better track and that we can understand better why certain crimes are being committed, and that we can address those more effectively within our communities.
Blocks away from Emanuel's doorstep, new Police Chief Luther Reynolds says a member of the transgender community was the most recent victim of hate last August outside of Deco nightclub.
I think because of her gender identity, Kendra was attacked for that reason. And I think that was something that clearly we learned after reviewing video. It was very specific, targeting.
It matters to that community that that motive be exposed and crushed all at the same time.
The massacre at Mother Emanuel AME is often the first thing that comes to mind when we think of these types of crimes, but it was actually just one of dozens that have happened across our area in recent years. Tomorrow night, Carter Coyle takes a closer look at just how frequently hate crimes have happened here in the Lowcountry. Our Live 5 investigative series, Measuring Hate, continues tomorrow night, right here on Live 5 News at 11. The Lowcountry is known for hospitality and friendliness, frequently named a destination for people from all over the world.
Yet even here, though, there are violent crimes that are rooted in hatred. Hundreds of people attended a forum on hate crimes hosted by Charleston Police last night. It was a chance to talk about what more our community can do to prevent those kinds of crimes.
As part of our ongoing series, Carter Coyle has been investigating how frequently hate crimes happen here.
9 innocent churchgoers killed, targeted for being black. When many of us picture a hate crime close to home, we think of Mother Emanuel. But there are other, albeit less tragic, examples of hate hiding in our community. In the seaside town of Beaufort, 2017, there was a rash of vandalism, red spray paint with racial slurs on pavement, buildings, and in a park. In Moncks Corner, police say a black woman and her daughter were followed out of a Walmart by a man who spit on the mother, calling her the N-word. This past August, a transgender woman punched in the face outside a nightclub downtown Charleston.
Is there something systemic that we should be paying attention to?
Charleston Police Chief Luther Reynolds says we must do a better job tallying up reliable numbers about hate crimes.
We as a community really have to have an awareness, a sense of a tracking and kind of a grasp of to what degree does that occur here. And to the degree that it does, we all need to rally around and have total clarity against hate as a community.
The FBI's most recent hate crime data is from 2017. In South Carolina that year, a total of 87 hate crimes were reported from 46 law enforcement agencies. 63 of those related to race and ethnicity, 11 for religion, 12 for sexual orientation, and 1 for disability. The problem? Well, the FBI is required to keep tabs on those numbers, but individual agencies are not required to submit them.
We literally do not know how many hate crimes there are every year.
Heidi Byrick with the Southern Poverty Law Center points to these studies from the Department of Justice that found there are 250,000 hate crimes a year in the United States.
So you contrast that with the maybe 5,000 or 6,000 that the FBI reports. That means we're only capturing 5% of the data.
After we started requesting police reports, 3 different agencies got back to us saying they uncovered clerical errors and had reported incidents to the FBI as hate crimes that were not. One example of this, Somerville's police department tells us the code they use to report a non-biased crime is 88, and the code they use to report a hate crime or a bias crime is 99. Those numbers are right next to each other on the keyboard, and that's how they say their mistake happened. But really, mistakes like that call into question all of these FBI numbers.
The data is so unreliable that it's a crisis, frankly, because if we don't have good numbers, we don't know what the dimensions of this kind of violence might be or how serious it is.
In South Carolina, 392 cities, counties, and colleges reported 0 hate crimes to the FBI. Many agencies don't report at all. Why wouldn't a police agency report hate crime numbers to the feds to make sure that they're tracked?
The range of reasons for why this stuff doesn't get reported is really deep. I mean, one, cops just aren't trained on it, right? So they don't even know what they're looking for.
She says the Association of Chiefs of Police is trying to come up with better standards so all officers are handling these cases consistently.
Let's say we have an assault and the person who committed it expresses some sort of racial resentment. They may think it's more important to mark assault than hate crime. They may not even understand that you could do both.
Nothing is never going to be a solve-all, but sometimes being quiet and non-participant is deadly. We don't need that in South Carolina, and our history teaches us that.
This year, Representative Wendell Gilliard has proposed a hate crimes law in South Carolina. We're one of only 5 states without one.
For the people who would be somewhat slack and just don't care, don't wait until it knocks at your door.
He hopes such a law would help train police, truly track the numbers, and help us see where and why hate crimes are happening. In Charleston, Carter Coyle, Live 5 News.
Now, we are still in the process of gathering police and sheriff's office reports about the local hate crimes.
You can find a breakdown of the numbers that are available per city and county on our website, live5news.com. Our Measuring Hate series continues on tomorrow with a closer look at the hate groups in our own backyard.
New numbers released this week show these groups are on the rise here in South Carolina. Live 5 investigates the concern that hate may be coming from groups not even on this list. That's tomorrow, right here on Live 5 News at 11.
1,020 organizations across the country are what the Southern Poverty Law Center calls hate groups. 17 of those right here in South Carolina, 3 of them in the Low Country.
Tonight, Brad Stryker looks at those hate groups in our area and the concern that hate might even be coming from groups that are not on the list.
This is the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map. Now, it's a tool that they have on their website to show you every organization that the Law Center has deemed a hate group. What I want to do here is zoom into South Carolina. You can see that there are 17 groups that are in our state that are hate groups. Now, no local member of these groups could talk to me, but I did end up talking to the former leader of the South Carolina Secessionist Party here in Charleston. That's the group that you see in this video. I want to make it very clear that the Law Center does not designate them as a hate group, but the man who created the party said that it was starting to move in a hateful direction, which is why he chose to dissolve it.
I was absolutely disappointed. You know, I put 3 years of my life full-time almost into this, and to see it pulled away because of the exact same thing I said that it wasn't. That bothered me.
For many years, people most recognized the South Carolina Secessionist Party for events like this one, members drawing a lot of attention by waving Confederate flags. People would accuse the group of spreading hateful ideas and using hateful rhetoric, but the group's founder, James Bessinger, said that he only started the group to celebrate and preserve history.
When we started to get an influx of SCV members is when we started to see, a rise in people making complaints about other members being homophobic and making racist comments, sexist comments, things like that.
He says those members came mostly from SCV, the Sons of Confederate Veterans. Neither of those organizations have been called a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. The Sons of Confederate Veterans even sent me this statement, telling me they don't knowingly let anybody join who has ties to hate groups.
What we're looking for is, does the organization describe another group of people, black people, Jews, for example, immigrants, the LGBT population, as lesser?
Heidi Byrick and her team with the Southern Poverty Law Center charted 1,020 hate groups this year. That's a 30% increase over the last 4 years and a 7% increase in hate groups since last year. One of the groups on this year's list is the National Socialist Movement.
And it's not about hate, it's about love for the white race. It's about wanting a whiter future.
Kynan Dutton is a sergeant in the National Socialist Movement. The Law Center describes the group as neo-Nazi and racist.
We never advocate for violence. We never advocate for anything that would be close even to a hate crime.
But Heidi Byrick from the Law Center says to be considered a hate group, an organization doesn't necessarily need to have members who committed a hate crime. Sometimes it just takes their hateful ideas and messages to inspire those crimes.
Dylan Roof, who committed that horrible mass shooting in Charleston, was inspired by the website of a group called the Council of Conservative Citizens, a white supremacist group. Their members had never been involved in violence, but their rhetoric led Dylan Roof to commit that horrible act.
After dissolving the Secessionist Party, Bessinger said he's worried that groups like his and like the Sons of Confederate Veterans that are meant to advocate for the preservation of history are attracting people with hateful ideas.
But it doesn't surprise me that people with those alternative agendas seek out organizations like ours and like theirs, and it bothers me that they so easily succumb to people like that.
Heidi Byrick, the woman behind this project, said that she thinks one reason why we've seen such a big spike in hate groups is because of messages, ideas, and policies that are gaining traction in the current political climate. Now, I've put a link to this Southern Poverty Law Center hate map on our website. You can check it out by heading over to live5news.com and clicking on this story.